feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Changes, changing on the daily. Watch me flip the pages, flipping all the pages of my story. Weightless, I've been feeling weightless, fresher than the daydream. Look at me, I'm changing right before me. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to. I change with the vibe when I walk in. I'm chasing all that I'm wanting. On fire cause I know how to spark it. I do what I want to. Stay up and I brighten the room up. I trust how I shine like true love. Best part of the night like what's up. I do what I want to. Changes, changing on the daily. Watch me flip the pages, flipping all the pages of my story. Weightless, I've been feeling weightless, fresher than the daydream. Look at me, I'm changing right before me. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to. 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 I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to. I just gotta be honest. I don't like the way she dresses, or the way that she pronounces her S's. And I'm just saying what they're thinking, cause they don't know you, no, like I know you, no. I'm not trying to be pretentious, but we know what we had was the bestest. Now you're hiding behind white picket fences, and she knows she don't know you, no, like I know you, no. Not that I'm supposed to be nice and everything, on some feminism shit, yeah. Not that it's not with me, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's not. I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cruel, but the way she calls you happy before the altar alters you, and you'll know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you. Let's not get this confused. Look at her and look at you. Yeah. She'll mess up your genetic pool, and I would never do that. I would just improve that. Not that I'm supposed to be nice and everything, on some feminism shit, yeah. Not that it's not with me, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's not. I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cruel, but the way she calls you happy before the altar alters you, and you'll know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you, for you.
I don't know if I'm like more concerned or confused. That's the thing. It just doesn't make any sense. But why? Why would you do that though? Like,
I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cruel,
don't need to.
but
why?
the way she calls you happy
It just seems unnecessary.
before the altar alters you,
I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad.
and
Not
you'll
even.
know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you.
Why haven't they said anything yet? Why haven't I said anything yet?
Hold on. Alright. 2 you. I know you've been looking at me, looking at you. Looking at you, oh yeah. Craving you like all afternoon. Someday I'll be getting a taste. Kiss ya from your tummy to your nose to your waist. Like eating a cake, oh yeah. Oh, whoa, I can't wait. I'm gonna be the snack that smells back. I'm gonna be the kid to your cat. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the one you unwrap. Just take me out and break me in half. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. Cake pop on the tip of my tongue. You belong there like the frosting on a cinnamon bun. A cinnamon bun, oh yeah. Eat it till it's making me young, oh yeah. Split me like an Oreo and dip me in a cup of your jam. Cause neither one of us is gonna taste as good if we're on our own. Falling like a skittle, I'll be filling up the palm of your hand. I'll be skinny dipping, feeling dizzy from your butt at the can. I'm gonna be the snack that smells back. I'm gonna be the kid to your cat. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the one you unwrap. Just take me out and break me in half. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the snack that smells back. I'm gonna be the kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the one you unwrap. Just take me out and break me in half. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the snack that smells back. I'm gonna be the kid to your cat. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the one you unwrap. Just take me out and break me in half. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Changes, changing on the daily. Watch me flip the pages. Flipping all the pages of my story. Weightless, I've been feeling weightless. Fresher than the daydream. Look at me, I'm changing right before me. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to. I change with the vibe when I walk in. I'm chasing all that I'm wanting. On fire cause I know how to spark it. I do what I want to. Stay up and I brighten the room up. I trust how I shine like true love. Best part of the night like what's up. I do what I want to. Changes, changing on the daily. Watch me flip the pages. Flipping all the pages of my story. Weightless, I've been feeling weightless. Fresher than the daydream. Look at me, I'm changing right before me. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change
gotta be honest. I don't like the way she dresses, or the way that she pronounces her S's. And I'm just saying what they're thinking, cause they don't know you, no, like I know you, no. I'm not trying to be pretentious, but we know what we had was the bestest. Now you're hiding behind white picket fences, and she knows she don't know you, no, like I know you, no. Not that I'm supposed to be nice and everything, on some feminism shit, yeah. Not that it's not with me, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's not. I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cruel, but the way she calls you happy before the altar alters you, and you'll know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you. Let's not get this confused. Look at her and look at you, yeah. She'll mess up your genetic pool, and I would never do that. I would just improve that. Not that I'm supposed to be nice and everything, on some feminism shit, yeah. Not that it's not with me, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's not. I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cruel, but the way she calls you happy before the altar alters you, and you'll know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you, for you. I don't know if I'm like more concerned or confused. That's the thing. It just doesn't make any sense. But why? Why would you do that though? Like, I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cruel. Don't need to. But why? The way she calls you happy, it just seems unnecessary. Before the altar alters you. I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad. And you'll know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you.
Why haven't they said anything yet? Why haven't I said anything yet?
Hold on. Alright. 2, 10.
You know I've been looking at you. I know you've been looking at me, looking at you. Looking at you, oh yeah. Creeping you like all afternoon. Someday I'll be getting a taste. Kiss ya from your tummy to your nose to your waist. Like eating a cake, oh yeah. Oh, whoa, I can't wait. I'm gonna be the snack that smells back. I'm gonna be the kid to your cat. Ooh, the snack that smells back. Ooh, the kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the one you unwrap. Just take me out and break me in half. Ooh, the snack that smells back. Ooh, the kid to your cat. colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Changes, changing on the daily. Watch me flip the pages, flipping all the pages of my story. Weightless, I've been feeling weightless, fresher than the daydream. Look at me, I'm changing right before me. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to. I change with the vibe when I walk in. I'm chasing all that I'm wanting. On fire cause I know how to spark it. I do what I want to. Stay up and I brighten the room up. I trust how I shine like true love. Best part of the night like what's up. I do what I want to. Changes, changing on the daily. Watch me flip the pages, flipping all the pages of my story. Weightless, I've been feeling weightless, fresher than the daydream. Look at me, I'm changing right before me. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to. 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 I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to.
I just gotta be honest. I don't like the way she dresses, or the way that she pronounces her S's. And I'm just saying what they're thinking, cause they don't know you, no, like I know you, no. I'm not trying to be pretentious, but we know what we had was the bestest. Now you're hiding behind white picket fences, and she knows she don't know you, no, like I know you.
And we all
review one of my favorite quotes from jobs. And I quote, "Sociologist na
were able to
Hello there, Ateneans. Here's what you need to know about the Alternative Class Program, or ACP. The ACP is conducted every semester to provide the college students with formative opportunities outside of their regular classroom routine and daily schedule, in support of the university's uniquely Jesuit educational goals. Instead of attending their class for a particular period, students choose at least one ACP topic from among the offered webinars and e-workshops. Carefully selected resource speakers from different fields of specialization are invited to share their knowledge, skills, and inspire students to nurture their personal development and partake in social advocacies or causes. We thank you for your participation in the first ever virtual ACP last semester, which recorded an all-time high attendance turnout and received an overwhelmingly affirmative evaluation from students. Because of the ACP's affirming results and positive impact, we are continuing with a bigger and better ACP. However, the program shall still be carried out via digital platforms to ensure everyone's safety. The theme for this semester's ACP is Cannonballs, Firing Up Dreams, Courage, Action. This theme is inspired by the conversion of Saint Ignatius of Loyola, founder of the Society of Jesus. Just as Saint Ignatius was hit by a cannonball, which altered his life and drew him to a greater calling, this ACP hopes to light up the university's call for students to have dreams, discern on how these dreams contribute to one's personal improvement and the common good, muster courage, and find ways to accomplish these dreams. To do this, ACP offerings are carefully chosen to be relevant to the current times, formative, and mission-driven. The webinars and e-workshops hope to start a conversation on one's life in the pandemic and the varied factors that affect it, and facilitate personal and even community reflection and discernment. Who knows? These virtual activities could fire up meaningful cannonball moments in you, dear students. At the end of the webinars and e-workshops, the ACP hopes for the following objectives. First, acquire knowledge and/or skills that are relevant to one's interest, talent, skill, passion, advocacy. Second, relate or share the learning and insight gained from the topic or activity in conversation or dialogue and personal reflection. Third, examine the importance of one's interest, talent, skill, passion, advocacy to the development of the society. And fourth, seek ways or opportunities by which the gained knowledge and skill can be further advanced and used for the benefit of the immediate organization, community, or the larger society. For now, we would like to listen to the speakers sharing and take part in the conversation. Dream, have courage, take action, and don't forget to learn and have fun while we experience ACP, Ateneans.
Magis morning, Ateneans. I am Karla Faye Abila, a fourth-year BS Psychology student. Welcome to this alternative class program webinar, #Cancelled, Understanding the Phenomenon of Cancel Culture. Right, so today, this webinar shall define the social phenomenon of cancel culture and unpack its nuances and implications through the concept of virtual collective consciousness. We are also privileged to have with us a speaker who has devoted time in understanding and writing about the topic. So before we formally start with this webinar, allow me to remind you of some of the online etiquettes. So first, kindly mute your microphones in order to prevent distracting the speaker and your fellow participants. However, you may want to open your cameras only if possible, but if your internet does not permit it, then it's okay. Second, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to send your messages through the Zoom chat box. And also, we are live on the AdNew OSAS YouTube channel. So we encourage our YouTube viewers to participate in the comment section, and we will address your concerns or inquiries in the open forum later. Also, we will be issuing e-certificates, but first, and as usual, you need to stay throughout the event and accomplish the evaluation form that will be given at the end of this webinar. So I hope that these guidelines are clear before we begin with the program proper. All right, so are you guys now excited for the talk? Can you send a thumbs up or perhaps a heart in our comment section para naman makita natin na ready na tayo sa ating topic for today. Ayan. Yan, it's raining hearts sa ating comment section sa Zoom. Yan, thank you so much. Ayan, okay. So I'm quite curious about this topic because it is a trend among us young people and just like us students. So kaya halina't sabay-sabay tayong makinig at matuto. Alright, so without further ado, may I invite everyone to settle down and prepare for the opening prayer. Let us now dispose ourselves in the presence of the Lord. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Eternal Word made man, immortal love made flesh, reveals the depth of God's love by sharing human life and death.
Our sins have wounded you, our faults have pierced your heart. Those burned by pride and hatred, you love us unto death. Oh, sacred heart of Jesus, oh, loving heart of God, such feel us and make our hearts like yours. Inflame our hearts with love. Inflame our hearts with love.
Enkindle through our days the weary we now comfort. The poor and lowly we now raise. We consecrate our lives to you, O Sacred Heart. We vow to sow your justice and spread your peace today. Oh, Sacred Heart of Jesus, oh, loving heart of God, such us feel us and make our hearts like yours. Oh, Sacred Heart of Jesus, oh, loving heart of God, such us feel us and make our hearts like yours.
Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Ayan, maraming salamat Sir Joseph Reberiano and University Choir. What a great way to start the event. Now, to properly welcome us to this program, we have with us our University President, Father Roberto Ezekiel and Rivera S.J.
To our distinguished guest speakers, to our Ateneo de Naga University students, faculty, administrators, and staff members, to our dear friends and associates, Diyos marhay na aldaw po sa Indogabos. It is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome all of you to this alternative class program with its theme Cannonballs, firing up dreams, courage, and action. My dear friends, we know that for yet another year, this alternative class program, and indeed our whole academic year, is being enacted in the context of the pandemic. The pandemic continues, and some can say it has worsened, and yet we press on. We press on with the work of education. We press on with the work of teaching and learning. And that is why I believe it is truly appropriate that we hold this alternative class program in the context not only of this very challenging pandemic, but also in the context of the special event we celebrate and commemorate this year. That is the 500th year since the conversion of Saint Ignatius of Loyola. We recall how
I would like to apologize on our behalf. I think we had a technical difficulty in the part of our technical committee. So I think we can now proceed to the next segment of this program. Okay. But yan, thank you to Father President for his welcoming and inspiring message kahit hindi niya natapos. Alright. So at this juncture, huwag na nating patagalin pa. I will now introduce our distinguished guest speaker for today. So our speaker is a faculty member of the Political Science Department of the Salle University. He obtained his PhD in sociology from the same university. He is the former editor-in-chief and currently the managing editor of the prestigious Asia Pacific Social Science Review. He attended short courses on global health at Hokkaido University, Japan, under the Sakura Exchange Program in Science. Furthermore, he is currently pursuing further studies in international relations and public policy at the University of Macau, Macau SAR. He was the keynote speaker in the Swedish Embassy organized forum titled #Cancelled, Cancel Culture and the New Rules of Engagement. His publications cover a range of subject matters such as Chinese, Filipinos, cancel culture, work ethic, and burnout, which appeared in reputable journals such as Asian Ethnicity, Critica Cultura, and Pertanica Journal of Social Sciences and Humanities, among others. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome our resource speaker for today, Dr. Joseph Ching Velasco. Let's give him a round of virtual applause, please.
So thank you for the warm welcome. So first of all, good morning, everyone, and I hope you're all feeling wonderful this Friday morning. So I would like to acknowledge the effort of the organizers of this alternative class program for bringing together such wonderful set of speakers, as well as putting together this session. So today my talk is cancel culture in the digital age. So let me just share my screen. Okay, so please let me know if there's a problem with the presentation so I can adjust it accordingly. Okay, so my talk today is titled Cancel Culture in the Digital Age. So my first argument is this. So I wish to start my talk on framing cancel culture as a form of public humiliation and social control. It is a fact that humanity has devised a multitude of creative ways to enact different forms of public humiliation to address social, moral, and legal infractions. Examples of which include public flogging, the use of pillories, and even public caning. So the concept of canceling someone is similar to those mentioned, but is more subtle and specifically designed for the digital age. So in this talk, I will unpack the nuances and implications of cancel culture, and I will delineate cancel culture as a sporadic collective social movement leveled against individuals who infringe on the loose norms of social acceptability. So, social networking platforms was originally conceived to allow individuals to engage in different forms of online interactions. So this technology robustly permeated different facets of society, and it has morphed into a generic term called social media. And such has become a powerful force in contemporary life. It paved the way for the rise of digital participatory cultures and social movements. So, social media has certainly changed how society functions and consume information. So, it brought forth boons and banes in modern life, from the convenience of shopping online to the pervasiveness of deliberate network disinformation. So, social media has allowed individuals to constantly be connected despite distance and other physical limitations. So Manuel Castells in The Hypersocial Society and Network Individualism argues that the network society is a hypersocial society, not a society of isolation. So people by and large do not fake their identity in the internet, and people fold the technology into their lives, link up virtual reality and real virtuality, and they live in various technological forms of communication, articulating them as they need it. So the network societies also manifested in the transformation of sociability. So we have observed, yet what we have observed is not the fading away of face-to-face interaction or the increasing isolation of people in front of their computers. We know from studies in different society that in most instances, internet users are more social, have more friends and contacts, and are more socially and politically active than non-users. So, moreover, the more they use the internet, the more they also engage in interaction in all domains of their lives. But we also have to consider that it ushered in an always-on digital persona and continuous communication. Everyone is glued to their device, and the online and real life divide has been blurred. So, peculiarly, when one does not have any footprint on social media platform, it raises suspicion on one's authenticity. So, with the existence of hyper sociality, the emergence of network individualism has become more palpable. Castells argue that the emergence of um, individualism, of network individualism as social structure and historical um, evolution induced the emergence of individualism as the dominant culture of our societies. And the new communication technologies perfectly fit into the mode of building sociability along self selected communication networks. So, aside from what is mentioned earlier, Neil Alperstein, who authored Celebrity and Mediated Social Connections, Fans, Friends, and Followers in the Digital Age, proposed the concept of the virtual collective consciousness. So, he posits that our virtual collective consciousness represents the expression of our inner mind wandering, stream of consciousness, daydreams, and nocturnal dreams turned outward in a spontaneous, synchronous manner within a social network based partially on mediated social connections with celebrities and other people who are present and active on the social network. But as elegant as it may sound, it bears similarity to an echo chamber where similarly minded individuals only hear what they wish to hear, and anything that might be contrary to um, their line of thinking and preferences is deemed undesirable. So social media users follow pages that are aligned with their views and usually unfollow those which seem to be inconsistent with their inclinations. So, as one's thought and ideas become in sync with other mediated connections on social media, it becomes more challenging to accommodate ideas contrary to the dominant ideological climate. So, in the next slide, I will give you some, examples of celebrities or individuals who have recently been canceled because of some social infractions that they have caused. For example, Kevin Hart, he was supposed to host the 2019 Academy Awards, but his homophobic tweet cost him that particular job. And then an example, the tweet says that if my son comes home and try to play with my daughter's dollhouse, I'm going to break it over his head and say, in my voice, "Stop, that's gay." That's a tweet way back, I think in 20 or early 2011 or 20. Yeah, I think it's in 2011, and that actually cost him his gig in hosting the Academy Awards. And then we also have J.K. Rowling in June 2020. I think we are familiar with J.K. Rowling's work, right? So in June 2020, she tweeted that if sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. And I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate to speak the truth. So overall, this tweet seems to have offended, the transgender community, which led to her cancellation. So which led to, for example, fan sites dedicated to Harry Potter, such as MuggleNet and the Leaky Cauldron, have cut ties with Rowling because of her trans offensive tweet. And lastly, we also have Ellen DeGeneres. She was canceled for allegedly being mean. So first off, apparently what got under everyone's craw was that Ellen isn't as nice as she pretends to be on television. At least that was the assertion. So these are some examples of celebrities, particularly in the West, who were canceled because of an infraction that offended a stratum of society. So celebrities, influencers, public figures, as individuals who wield influence on their respective networks, are actually held against the loose standard of current social acceptability. Celebrities before are a production of media institutions, and they appeal to the general public because, um, and I quote, they humanize larger than life figures and they enhance the envied celebrities' larger than life stature as one who can indulge in behavior, situations, and acts that we ordinary people cannot. So, scandal constitutes the ecology of the celebrity, and celebrity scandal is not about celebrity lives alone, but also scandalous events that convert particular people or events into celebrities or icons of notoriety. So overall, celebrities are spectacles that are constantly blasted on different media that allows for sustained interest by the public. However, that has all changed when social media became a platform for self-publishing. So traditional media institutions as gatekeepers have been cut off from the process, and celebrities can now directly access the public through the digital networks that they have cultivated. And equally, the public can directly reach out to these individuals as mediated through technology. So, as shown on the screen, celebrity scandals appeal to us because they make two perhaps contradictory moves simultaneously. First, they humanize larger than life figures, and then second, it's not necessarily about celebrity lives alone, but also um, it's also about scandalous events that convert particular people or events um, into celebrities or icons of notoriety. So, so a few decades ago, or before we go to that segment, celebrities who use social media can now be considered also influencers. In similar vein, social media influencers have also become a form of celebrity. So the concept of influencers has, several gradations. You have your mega influencers, you have macro influencers, micro influencers, and nano influencers. Um, However, a few decades ago, public figures can weather scandals gracefully and come out unscathed. But with the direct link of these figures to the public through technology, escaping the scrutinizing public gaze is impossible. So, one wrong word in a post, a statement contradictory to the dominant narrative, an insensitive joke, or even a problematic essay will open the floodgates of vitriol from social media users, and a public shaming ensues, and you become canceled. So, what does it mean to be canceled? So, um, it is an act of withdrawing from someone whose expression, whether political, artistic, or otherwise, was once welcome or at least tolerated, but is no longer is. And in addition, it is a tactic of trying to erase someone from public discourse, either through publicly shaming, deplatforming, or demanding that they be fired. So simply put, anything that is objectionable can lead to cancellation. So there is no clear-cut parameter or indicator that someone merits cancellation. So with the ambiguous nature of cancel culture, a person who undergoes this form of public shaming likewise has an extremely vague and unclear path to redemption. So cancel culture is simply put a form of public shaming initiated on social media to deprive someone of their usual clout or attention with the aim of making public discourse more diffused and less monopolized by those in positions of privilege. And there are also different takes on cancel culture. First, let me enumerate. It can be considered as the ultimate expression of agency. Second, it can be considered a form of cultural boycott. Or third, it is also viewed as the democratization of discourse. Or fourth, on the opposite end, it may be seen as intensification of self censorship. And lastly, there's a lack of understanding on how to engage with itself. So some individuals tout cancel culture as a manifestation of agency, right? So given that social media, so canceling someone is also likened to a form of cultural boycott, as I mentioned earlier. So given that social media platforms can be monetized, so depriving a person of attention by virtue of cancellation is also a deprivation of their livelihood. So cancellation may also have a tangible economic impact. But there's also a pushback against cancel culture. So at this point, and I quote, almost everyone worth knowing has been canceled by someone. So those who were canceled have reached the line of social acceptability. So according to it is they reached the line of social acceptability based on unmarked and entirely ambiguous norms of today's social media climate. So to reiterate, canceling someone involves withdrawing from a person's expression who was once welcomed or even tolerated but is no longer is. And canceling may also lead to deplatforming or demanding that they be fired. So it is a form of cultural boycott, as I've said. However, despite the provocative notions that cancel culture brings forth, it is also simultaneously a complicated social movement. So not everyone is in agreement that um, of the greater purpose of cancel culture. So it is quite clear that cancel culture is a form of power play where the greater public can demand from individuals and even institutions to yield to popular opinion. Okay? However, the problem with cancel culture is the process by which we can productively engage with it. So, as mentioned earlier, one of the most recent figures who got canceled is J.K. Rowling because of her tweet that offended the transgender community. Her case is not unique, as other renowned public figures have been subjected to cancel culture. So there has been a push back against the powerful force emanating from the culture of cancellation. So, in a collective response, 150 writers and academics, um, including J.K. Rowling and Noam Chomsky and even Salman Rushdie, wrote an open letter to Harper's Magazine calling attention to the rising intolerant climate. And I quote from the open letter. Um, while we have come to expect this on the radical right, censoriousness is also spreading more widely in our culture. An intolerance of opposing views, a vogue for public shaming and ostracism, and the tendency to dissolve complex policy issues in a blinding moral certainty. So we uphold the value of robust and even caustic counter speech from all quarters, but it is now all too common to hear calls for swift and severe retribution in response to perceived transgressions of speech and thought. So, an invitation to open discussion seems to be the way forward in this extremely complicated social movement. So the growing trend of cancellation is actually stifling open debate and intensifies self-censorship among public figures. So essentially the culture of cancellation has become an apparatus to enact an ideological purge. So let me give you a very recent example. But I wouldn't say recent, but because it was last year. So cancel culture has also reached the Philippines. So these social movement may have originated from the West, but it has become a force for social change among the youth of Asia as well. So I will use the case of a celebrity from the Philippines who was canceled because of a social media infraction. Tatler Philippines touts Kat Arambulo Antonio as quote an outspoken blogger, social media personality, and entrepreneur. And in a Women of Style feature on Metro Style, she advocates for self love and the alignment of mind, body, and soul. She also has been a judge in the reality TV show, The Apartment. And at the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic in the Philippines, she posted an Instagram story disparaging people who were stuck at security checkpoints um, as shown on the screen here. In the Instagram story that she posted on March 16, 2020, it shows a news report of CNN showing a man who was handcuffed and being led to a police vehicle. She then unleashed a profanity laden commentary on why people should stay at home. And specifically, she said, um, and I quote, "My God, why don't you mother effers just stay at home? Stay at home. Don't you guys get it? Tigas ng ulo. This is exactly why they need the military because of you effers won't stay at home. Guys, come on." So the following day, she became one of the Twitter trending topics in the Philippines. And so, due to the immense backlash that her Instagram story has garnered, calls for her cancellation have become evident on social media, on Twitter and on social media. So tweets have started to tag brands affiliated with her, hoping to induce a response. And some brands have responded and publicly distance themselves from Kat Arambulo Antonio. For example, Organic California, a brand associated with Kat Arambulo Antonio, posted that, and I quote, "We agree that her comments are insensitive and uncalled for during a time of crisis. What was communicated via Ms. Arambulo's recent posts are in no way reflective of the respect and value that Organic has for Filipinos." So ultimately, she was taken to the court of public opinion, which is Twitter, and was deemed canceled. So, should anyone defend or attempt to give her a path to redemption, they might suffer a comparable consequence. So, she now serves as a vivid reminder for public figures, celebrities, influencers to consistently censor themselves, their content, and ensure that it complies with the dominant ideological climate. So just to give you a summary of my points with respect to cancel culture. So there are 3 points that I wish to share on the recent scholarship on pertaining to cancel culture. First, cancel culture is a new catalyst for digital hate seen in various media platforms in which large groups of people publicly criticize the victim's actions and withdraw their support from that victim, leading to serious consequences for their livelihood and well being. That's according to Cook et al. 2021. Second, opinions favoring cancel culture posit that it is akin to activism, using online platforms to criticize influential people for promoting bigotry. On the flip side, cancel culture can sometimes become digital vigilantism. That's according to Cho 2020. And lastly, for the third point, cancel culture demonstrates how content circulation via digital platforms facilitates fast, large scale response to acts deemed problematic and often empowering traditionally marginalized groups in the moment, but it also highlights the dearth of considered assessments and debate. So these 3 points highlight the complexity of cancel culture and the lack of within the lack of ways to engage within the movement itself. So all in all, the culture of cancellation is a highly complicated social movement. On one hand, it is considered one of the highest displays of the democratization of discourse. On the other hand, it is also a force for censoriousness and an intolerance for ideas that run contrary to the dominant acceptable social norms. So some contemplate that there is a better way to go about this form of calling attention to inappropriate behavior. And in the Philippine context, there seems to be little to no pushback against this form of public shaming. It is actually gaining strength since it has become an apparatus for the modification of online behavior. Perhaps it may evolve toward a more constructive form of critique focused on the action instead of the person. And as they say, everyone has skeletons in their closets. Anyone, therefore, can be subjected to the culture of cancellation. And more importantly, advocates of canceling public figures often believe that they hold the moral high ground. They are entitled even to disparage or humiliate someone on the grounds of political correctness. However, such public shaming on many occasions can be excessive and simply become a way of judging and rejecting a point or rejecting anyone who holds a different socio-political viewpoint. So let me reiterate my point that cancel culture is a form of public humiliation. So um, public humiliation is not new and has existed for centuries. And history has shown that humanity has devised a multitude of ways and actually creative yet gruesome ways to shame an individual for alleged social and legal infractions. Say, for example, public flogging, wearing a dunce cap, forced public exposure, and public caning. So the concept of canceling someone is similar to those mentioned, but is specifically designed for the digital age in the midst of hypersociality. So, as such, the pervasiveness of cancel culture or is disobliging of open debate. It is a form of critique that is somewhat destructive, and we're not so sure if it will evolve toward a more constructive form of critique. And as I've mentioned before, everyone has skeletons in their closet and therefore can be subjected to the culture of cancellation in the future. And ultimately, the problem with the supporters of cancel culture is this, and I would like to end my discussion with this. They are more concerned with censoring speech that they dislike more than actually discerning real hate from honest mistake. So this concludes my talk on cancel culture, and these are my references. So I now give the floor back to Karla to facilitate um to facilitate the succeeding segment of this program.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joseph Ching, for enlightening us about the cancel culture. On a personal note, I have really learned a lot po talaga in this topic. And yon, I have learned that there are two main points kung bakit nagkakaroon tayo ng cancellation in our generation today. And it can be and it can be used to criticize influential people, or yun na nga po, minsan ano lang siya, public shaming. But, this social movement from the West na na-adapt lang natin here in the Philippines, dahil nga sa hypersociality and sa social media, I think na sa Athenians, we have to learn to step back and reflect on the things happening before we makipag-ano kung ano yung trending. So, thank you so much po, Dr. Ching, for Dr. Velasco.
Just call me Joseph. Just call me Joseph. It's fine.
Okay, sorry. Dr. Joseph for that talk. And I hope that our participants enjoyed the webinar and gained something valuable as much as I did. And yan, I just wish that we had more time, and I hope that we continue educating ourselves in things that matter, such as the cancel culture. So yeah, thank you so much po. So now we will be moving on with the open forum, and we encourage everyone to share their messages and questions for our speaker. So you can click the raised hand button if you want to ask our speaker a question, and please wait for your name to be called before unmuting your microphone. So I think, while we are waiting for your questions and insights, let us first welcome our first reactor for this webinar, Ms. Daniel Filio.
Hello po everyone. I'm just going to check if I'm audible.
Yes, Dane.
Thank you so much, Karla. So greetings to everyone in the Zoom meet, most especially to our resource speaker, Dr. Joseph Ching Velasco, for being here with us and discussing this very relevant topic. I am Daniel N. Filio, a BS Psychology student of the Ateneo de Naga. And for my reaction, I would just like to express how elated I am of the fact that cancel culture is now being given a spotlight in the Philippines and through the lens of a Filipino, most especially by respected academics such as you, Dr. Velasco. So this phenomenon may only come as something that we, most especially my generation, would just mundanely use. But now, as it is being studied, we will now have a firmer grasp of what it really is, how it works, and why it will affect us in the long run as we shift to a more digital and technologically advanced future. Ultimately, thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us about this phenomenon with your talk. I surely gained a lot of insights. And now I will be proceeding to a few questions. I actually have two. So as a psychology major, the concept of growth of an individual holistic-wise is something that we highly give importance to. However, since the whole phenomenon of cancel culture can evolve to forms of transgressions and may even result to just reckless and hollow banter, the aftermaths of cancel culture may also become mentally damaging to the person being publicly scrutinized or simply the person being canceled. So there are even voices in the online discussion or in the online debate about this phenomenon claiming that cancel culture does not make room for growth of an individual, most especially to the person being canceled. I would just like to know how you think of these claims, Dr. Velasco.
Okay, so just to ask if I understood the question correctly. So what is the implication of cancel culture with respect to in relation to mental health? Did I understand your question correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So as I've said, it's a very complicated social movement, and the cornerstone of cancel culture is offense to a particular group or ideology. And I quote from the social psychologist Jonathan Haidt. I don't know if you've read his work, but on the matter of being offended, and he said that becoming less easily offended and slower to judge is an important life skill, according to many wisdom traditions. So our fragility stems from our inability to manage things that seem to offend us. And And I'll give you a metaphor. So the metaphor of the immune system best describes the challenges of responding to what is offensive. For example, by exposing the immune system to certain pathogens, it learns how to appropriately respond to it. And same with social life, by protecting yourself from easily being insulted or offended, you don't necessarily learn the skill to effectively manage and respond to it in the long run. So, cancel culture exists more demonstrably to those who allow themselves to be part of the attention economy. So by that, I mean your livelihood and existence depend on the attention of people. For example, number of viewers or number of followers. So if you're deprived of your following, it also dispossesses you from earning from the attention. So on the other hand, if you're not dependent on the attention economy, I don't think you have anything to worry about when it comes to cancel culture, because whatever you do, um, you are insulated from any tangible repercussions from it. So that's, guess, the message that I want to um get through, that offense is a very important aspect of our life, and our ability to respond to those offense is actually more important, and it determines the way we respond to future offenses of the similar caliber. So does that answer the question?
Yes, sir. But I would just like to clarify. So it at somehow, sir, if you really do expose yourself to criticisms, much like that you get from cancel culture, you get to grow as a person.
Well, yeah. Well, if you okay, I want to argue it in two ways. One, if you are easily offended as a person, I don't think you will get along in life easily, especially when you get offended in the very small, seemingly unimportant matters. So, getting offended is important. And, growth is in relation to cancel culture, that once you're canceled, um, what is important is that you reflect on what you think caused that offense. And, you have to understand your system of values and see whether it is actually real hate that you're spewing or simply a mistake. We have to discern between what is real hate and what is mistake. There are some people who just, give us, um, say something offensive, but not necessarily, but that person is not necessarily an evil or a hateful person. So we as people also should also be discerning of those type of nuances when it comes to enacting cancellation to someone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Velasco. Yes, for it already, you have actually successfully answered my questions and my queries, sir. So for the second inquiry, sir, I would like to know about your take or how you think about another claim about cancel culture, stating that culture is a radical way of strengthening democracy.
Is a way of strengthening. Okay, so the argument is that it strengthens democracy, right? I don't necessarily agree with that, because as I've said in my discussion, cancel culture is disobliging of open debate, and democracy is based on open debate. You talk about the robustness of your ideas. What I want to argue, actually point out, is that um it may be considered a form of mob behavior, but then again, we have to also consider where these people are coming from, what type of oppression they have encountered, and what, cancellation actually is much more visible on social media. And the problem on social media is that there is this in this the individuation. When anonymity fosters animosity against other people, because you don't necessarily put your own details on social media, and it's so easier for you to drag someone down. So I don't necessarily believe that those who were canceled, would necessarily change their behavior or their way of thinking. But what I'm inclined to believe is that they may have become more silent, and we don't really know if it has changed their perspective, because there's no robust exchange of ideas or debate. Because cancel culture is disobliging of open debate. They want to silence you, And when you silence someone, you don't necessarily get to understand where that person is coming from, what his ideas are, and how it can be developed or further cultivated to a different or to a different trajectory.
Thank you so much, Dr. Velasco.
Yan. Thank you so much, Danny and Sir, for answering Danny's queries. Now we proceed to the second reactor. May I now call on Genevieve Novio?
Hello po. Can I be heard?
Yes, po. You're
Okay
audible.
po. Hello po. Good morning, everyone, and good morning especially to to Dr. Velasco. Yan, I am Jenny Vinovio po, and I am really thankful for this opportunity wherein I have been enlightened regarding regarding the topic that is cancel culture, because what I can say regarding this talk is that we can really see in the status quo that it's really evident as to how people are becoming so active and really um strong with regards to expressing what they have seen. So I think what I've got from this po is that I think cancel culture can somehow be related to cyberbullying. It's just that cancel culture is being accepted, or it's okay because you have a bigger number of people supporting you against one person, comparing it to cyberbullying wherein it's just you against a particular person. So with that po, I can see that this is how strong social media can give to the society, wherein it is um social media can give and create ideologies to people in which um some people might not be able to weigh whether it's still okay or bad. So we um as progressive youth, or as responsible citizens of this nation, I think that it's better that we still weigh things before we do or share things, because there are other possible outcomes of those things that we'll do. Thank you po.
Yeah, that's a wonderful way of putting it. It's like cancel culture is enacted by a mob, and then you have this cyberbullying, which is enacted by an individual. So, there might be overlaps, but overall the effects might not necessarily be the same. But yes, I get your point. Thank you for that wonderful insight.
Yan. Thank you, Miss Genevieve Novio. Now, we proceed to our last reactor, Mr. Julius Daet. Hi, Jules.
Thank you, Karla. Can you hear me?
Yes, po. Loud and
Okay,
clear.
thank you so much. So I am Julius Daet, fourth year BS Psychology. Before I give my insights and reaction, I would like to give my gratitude. Thank you, Sir Joseph, for your meaningful and very informative discussion about cancel culture. So this is my realization. So yes, cancel culture is one of the trends in the virtual world right now. And for me, it is really a form of abuse of freedom of speech. It is bias in a form of injustice. Knowing without knowing the person's side by why he or she did a particular thing. They're still human, which implies that they are not exempted from committing mistakes. So instead of canceling them, it is better to proactively educate them without inflicting harm that could deteriorate them mentally, emotionally, and physically. And yes, we have freedom of speech, but it does not mean that we are free to harm others. So we should be responsible enough for our actions. Social media is a powerful tool that people can use to either torment or educate others. So we should be careful about utilizing these platforms. And this talk is very beneficial and very timely, especially since we are internet users. And we should be aware of the implications and downfall of cancelled culture. On the other hand, we are influencers in one way or another. That is why we also should be responsible for the actions and decisions we make. And Sir Joseph, I only have one question. So can you give some practical ways how to combat cancel culture, sir? Thank you so much.
Sir, your mic po is
Okay, the question is first, did I understand the question correctly? How to combat cancel culture? right?
Yes po,
I
sir.
don't necessarily take the position that cancel culture should necessarily be um combated, but um I think it should evolve um to a more fruitful type, or more understanding type of critique, because I always I see cancel culture, or I partly see cancel culture as a form of public shaming, and a form of, in relation to that, a form of mob justice and online vigilantism. So let us not romanticize the concept of mob justice and online vigilantism, because it does not address the root causes of issues. So as I've said, we all have skeletons in our closets. We all have done some unusual thing in the past, which in the future might become offensive. And as you said, no one is perfect. So taking the stance of unimpeachable moral superiority is absurd at best and hypocritical at worst. So I've seen so many people who cultivated identities as new moral influencers of the youth. So then they fall so hard when people unearth their skeletons, for example, for example, a string of sexual abuse cases. So we should demand accountability through proper channels and institutions, instead of enforcing or enforcing cancel culture in these people. And also, I hope that our institutions would respond to these types of complaints in a proactive way. And I hope that institutions do not just sweep things under the rug, just because to placate this growing voice against a particular individual, or a particular instance of, or a particular social infraction. So there.
Thank you so much, sir.
And thank you for your insights, Danielle, Genevieve, and Julius. We will now entertain the messages or questions from our Zoom and YouTube audience. So for the first question po, sir, this is from Anonymous. Yeah. There have been attempts to cancel Philippine politicians, just like the Marcoses, but it does not seem to work for some. Is there an explanation for this? Further, what are the factors that lead to the recovery or comeback of canceled public personalities?
Okay, so the first part of the question is related to the Marcoses, right?
Yes po.
Oh, so let me just point out unequivocally that they have done um unthinkable crimes in our society, and even the our legal system has ruled against them in several instances. So the question is, why um are the Marcoses not canceled yet? Because I think we have to understand that these political figures are deeply entrenched in Philippine society, and they have supporters that can be traced way, way, way back. So that level of support, and they are somewhat indebted to them. So that's why whatever people say against, or whatever facts that you present with respect to these people, do not necessarily have an effect on them, because some people are hyper partisan individuals, that whatever happens, they would support that particular candidate, for example the Marcoses. So there's this growing movement of fact checking the claims of what's on social media. But I this is just my opinion. I don't think it has a necessary significant effect on them, because some of their supporters are really extremely partisan. That whatever case that you present against them, and even facts, don't necessarily have an effect on them. And as I've said, cancel culture is mostly mediated online. Um, and this is where the problem lies. We are in this echo chamber that we hear all the same thing over and over again. But the real voters are not necessarily on social media. They're in real life. So we have to understand the difference, and the echo chamber that we are part of, and we have to go out to really make a difference. So there. And the second question, could you restate it again?
what are the factors that lead to the recovery or comeback of the canceled public personalities?
Okay, so the second question is not related to the first question. Let me just be clear on that. Okay. As I've said in my discussion, there is no clear path to redemption when a person gets canceled. And what is worse is that when a person or when another person tries to help or rehabilitate the canceled person, what usually ends up happening is that that other person also is or will more likely also become canceled because you are trying to help someone who has violated a social rule or something like that. So there is no clear path to redemption when a person gets canceled. We don't have I have not yet seen um a person who was canceled then was rehabilitated successfully at this point.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much po for answering the first question. Now po, we have a question from Elaine Jo Cabiles. She said po, ito po yung exact na sinabi niya. Thank you for this informative and relevant talk. Yan po. And do you think there is a way to direct social media discourse in a way that is actually productive and not just mobbish? For this to happen, what should people avoid cancel culture altogether or canceling people?
Okay. So this is my response to that. The funny thing is on social media, there is no line that has not been crossed. Like you all see, I mean, I don't know. The youth maybe is more entrenched in social media, but let me reiterate that there is no line that has not been crossed on social media. I see a lot of offensive things on social media, and everything seems to be fair game. Just look at the memes pertaining to celebrities and people, right? It's extremely offensive to some. It's extremely offensive. But kidding aside, let us not collapse criticizing and canceling as tangential concepts. Criticism is a productive endeavor. It forces people and institutions to reflect upon their actions and behaviors so that they become better social actors. On the other hand, canceling someone is simply removing their ability to participate in their wider social environment because of an infraction. So, civil discourse is about finding synergies amongst conflicting perspectives. And in this particularly divisive time, um, we need to find a common ground or even compromise. I know that people sometimes think that compromise is such a dirty word, but instead of alienating other people, it is best that if we invite them to a conversation or discussion about issues instead of name calling or blaming. So, instead of calling them out, why don't we, for a lack of a better term, call them in?
Yes, I agree with that point po, with you, sir. So let us now proceed to the next question from Gabriel B. Rayuan po. He said that since this cancel culture quite negatively affects the person of focus, if someone has made an insensitive remark, how should we or the one who received his or her marks proceed to this act? Is there a better alternative to reap the benefits of canceling?
Could you restate the latter part of the question?
Um, is there a better alternative to reap the benefits of canceling?
Okay, so as I've said earlier, you must really discern what is hate and what is a mistake. Some people commit, mistakes and they're not necessarily hateful individuals. They just, committed a mistake. But where we should draw the line is that when individuals start to, become beacons of hate and just spew out hate, I guess that is where we enforce our values and we say that we draw the line and we will not allow you to continue with your behaviors. But for those who just committed, a mistake, a slip of the tongue, these people deserve to be, called in, to be given an opportunity to grow instead of, canceling them out or silencing them, because silencing them does not necessarily, address the root root cause of issues. What if you cancel someone, what it achieves is that you just silence them, and it fosters division more than coming together.
Yes po. So basically po sir, yung mga hindi naman gano'n kalala ang kanilang parang reason to be canceled out, parang they deserve another chance or second chances.
Okay, hindi ko sinabing spectrum of behaviors. Um Kasi ang hirap din yung it's so difficult to position yourself in this issue kasi, 'pag hindi mo if you don't speak out against, people who spew out hate, then you are complicit. But then again, we have to make the determination if these people are actually, hateful people or just individuals who committed a mistake. So, mahirap siyang gawin. There's no easy A or B or C answer to that. It's really a complicated situation.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much po. So we have another question po from Deo Francis Angelo Fetalino. Parang related po siya sa kaninang point niya, sir. So this is his question. Would it still be valid to cancel a person for what he or she did many years ago, but soon realized that he or she did was wrong? So yung example niya po dito is Rich Brian in his That Stick lyrics, which has the N-word, then years later, he stated that he realized that putting the N-word in his lyrics was wrong and it wasn't his position to do it.
Sino yung person ulit? Yung example?
Rich Brian daw po. Parang singer po siya, sir.
Oo, sige.
Rapper.
I'm not necessarily familiar with them, but let's talk about the use of N-words. It's so strange that in Philippine, like normal Filipinos would use the N-word randomly because I'm not so sure if they're aware of the historical nuances of that term. And but I will go at the heart of the issue. Ang issue is the person use these words that were socially accepted, perhaps. I'm not saying the N-word, but I'm saying in a general term, there are words that are more accepted way back than it is now. So then again, as I've mentioned in my discussion, these individuals, these celebrities, these influencers, actually, some of them have these tweets from a decade ago, and then the public unearthed those tweets and said, "Oh, in 2010 you said this. How can you be a decent person when you thought of or person A in this way?" So as I've said, we all have skeletons in our closets. People would find it out later on. The skeletons of your closet may not necessarily be offensive at this point, but in the future it might be. So, that is a difficult position because for example, in 2010, that particular behavior was acceptable, but say in 2040, that behavior is now considered offensive. So, you try to understand. We also have to consider the historical context of these actions. Hindi tayo porque, oy, noong 2010 sinabi mo yan, canceled ka na. We also have to understand, that people also grow, that people may also change. And that's where we should, that's one of the biggest consideration there.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much po for that answer. Now, we proceed to another anonymous question po. How about those people canceled due to sexual assault or harassment that are artists? How do we separate the art from the artist who committed this? And is it bad or a guilty pleasure to still continue to consume their product? So, yun po, sir.
Okay, so first and foremost, harassment has a legal category in our law. Okay, for example, harassment, I think, has its own legal classification in our law. So these behaviors are ultimately punishable by law. Okay. And the thing is, so for example, may case si artist A, meron siyang harassment case. So the question now is it okay Or is it morally acceptable?
Yung sabi po dito, yung ano po ulit yun, sir? I'm sorry.
Could you restate the last part of the question?
Ay, sa last question, last part po, is it a bad or a guilty pleasure to still consume their product?
Okay,
Din po.
consuming their product, or for example, their art forms, their songs, their other cultural productions. I have to say that I don't know. You have to draw. It really depends on your moral compass where you draw the line. You know, if it's not necessarily that offensive, and offense is a very relative term. What may be offensive to you may not be offensive to me. So it is really based on your the ex the your ex your the spectrum of your moral, your moral compass where you draw the line. But if you ask me, if the situation is that, oh, this person tweeted something in 2010 and it's already 2040, and you have to understand the historical difference, that the values in 2010 may not necessarily be the same in 2040. So you know we I would still consume them, because for example, when you remove these art forms, or these, say for example, reminders of these individuals, you erase them from public discourse, and people tend to forget. And when you forget these things, that is more dangerous, because you forget the infractions that occurred at the in this particular say example. So like erasing them from public discourse, I should not necessarily be the case, because when you erase, people in the future tend to forget, and these possible mistakes will be repeated again, because people in the future wouldn't have any reference to it.
Yes po. Thank you so much, sir. Now we have another question from the Zoom chat box from Anya Cherry. So she said po na it was mentioned that we should educate rather than canceling. However, will this also apply to those situations that involve a very known person who has obviously intended to offend a community even when they are once canceled out or educated before?
Say which, as an is Anya here in this session?
Anya?
Is that the person who asked the question?
Yes po.
So the question, so however, it was mentioned that we should educate rather than canceling. However, will this also apply to those situations that involve a very known person who has obviously intended to offend the community, even when they were once called out or canceled before? Okay, number one, I think calling out is not absolute. Your spectrum of acceptability may not necessarily be the same as the other person. So, as I've said, it may be offensive to you, but it may not necessarily be offensive to that person. It may be offensive to your community, but it's not necessarily offensive to the greater public. So, that is where relativity comes in. It's offensive to you, but it's not offensive to him. So, the question now is, how do we so the question is, how do we respond to it? Am I right?
Yes po. How do we respond daw po if they were once canceled out na or na-educate na siya dati?
So if
Pero,
quote unquote na rehabilitate na siya as
opo.
a public figure, it really depends on the general public's acceptance of that person. Some people, as I've said, I haven't seen yet, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen someone who was successfully rehabilitated um after being canceled. Not yet. And I haven't, at least in the Philippine context, I haven't seen it. So I'm not necessarily sure or certain of the outcome of that particular example or instance.
Yes po. Thank you so much, sir. So for the next question po, it's anonymous din po. Should we immediately address the things that we said, or that we did that were wrong in the past to avoid being canceled?
Should we what?
Should we immediately address the things that we said or did that were wrong in the past to avoid being canceled?
Okay, we have to understand that what a person may have said in the past is not necessarily offensive. And bringing it out in public may be effective, but I would say that don't bring it out unless it's absolutely necessary, because people wouldn't necessarily dig into your past and specifically nitpick about what you have said, say for example when you were in grade 5. It's we have to understand we also have to understand, as I've said, we have to understand the history and the context of certain things that we said. For example, if you've said it in grade school or in high school, of course you are a totally different person as compared to now. And we hope that we don't use those things against the other person, because certain, or more likely, at least growth has occurred and the person now knows better. Unless the person is still the same individual who spews out the same hateful things, that's where you draw the line.
Yes, boss. And thank you so much. Now, meron po tayong medyo mahaba-habang uh, insight and question po from the audience. May I just read it to you, boss? So it was mentioned earlier that an individual won't necessarily change their opinions or views just because they have been canceled. There are also times when a person who has canceled in the past has apologized and attempted to demonstrate change, yet still become subject to this trend. Could this imply that cancel culture was never really a way to encourage people to learn and give others the opportunity to change, even though it was initially used to empower the marginalized, and some people claim that they have do it for growth? So its purpose is solely to humiliate others for saying or doing things that are just against the norm.
Okay, so the question there is this. So I guess I would respond to it in this way. As I've said, canceling someone is necessarily silencing them, but we do not get the real cause of the issue. Like, did this person really change his or her values or understanding of certain issues because he was canceled, or is he or she now changes because he wants to get back that level of popularity and and regain his platform once more? So, as I've said, we should, instead of, instead of canceling them out, it's better, like, for a lack of a better term, call them in and have a robust discussion. Like, why do you have this particular issue? You know, I know in the Philippines, we are not big fans of the concept of debate. What we love in the Philippines is that, okay, let's just sweep it under the rug. We want to have harmonious relationships. And we must understand that cultural nuance. And it's so difficult for us to debate because it's not necessarily quite um, part of this, or necessarily part and parcel of our culture. But it's a wonderful way to get to the heart of the issues instead of silencing individuals. What is what a better way to do it is to really have a discussion with them.
Yan, thank you. So yun, discussion or conversation is really an essential in in giving solutions sa mga ganyang pag-cancel out. So ito po sir, we have a very timely question, and I think may interest ang ating Swifties dito sa webinar. So ito po sir yung question. Recently, Taylor Swift released her Red, or Taylor's version album, particularly the song All Too Well, which has a 10-minute version with a much detailed lyrics along with a short film that revived the Swifties fandom's hate towards her former boyfriend, Jake Gyllenhaal. Tama ba yung pag-pronounce yan? Gyllenhaal.
Si
Does
Jake
it mean...
Gyllenhaal.
Okay. Ano po kayo, sir? Aware po kayo dun sa...
Well, first of all, I'm not a Swiftie. Number
Okay.
one. Number two, so I'm not so I'm not really, I don't really understand the issue.
Maribukon ka mo, nag-ano baga?
Uh, can I remind everyone to please unmute their mute their microphones? Yan. Okay, thank you so much.
So the question is, could you restate the
Ito po,
last
sir.
part of the
Ito po
question?
yung question. Parang, does it mean that Taylor influenced her supporters? Or is it the responsibility solely of the people throwing hate towards Jake or simply canceling him for the second time after 10 years? Would you like, sir, bigyan ko na po kayo ng context nung,
No,
ano,
I think I have a response to that. For example, the Taylor Swift, created an album, and she does that all the time, and even other artists would sing about their issues in life. The problem not doesn't lie with Taylor, I guess. The problem lies with their supporters. Because they're the ones interpreting the song. They're the ones who is conducting these types of behaviors against that person. So it's not necessarily her fault. It's the cause perhaps may be attributed to those who are listening and interpreting it in a particular way, and then um mobilizing action against that particular person. So it's not necessarily, I guess, her fault.
yes, sir. Thank you po. Other questions po from our audience. This is your time to ask our speaker personally. You can just click the raise hand button in our Zoom chat. Other questions or comments? Okay, John, Raymond, you can unmute your mic. John, we can't hear you if you're speaking. Okay.
Hello.
Okay, go.
Can I be heard?
Yes, po.
Good day, sir. When does like a group of people giving opinions start becoming like a mob that's canceling someone? So let's say in a forum, people are giving their opinions on, let's say, an influencer doing this or that. When does it become this group canceling the influencer?
When does a movement becomes cancellation?
Yes, please, sir.
Or when does it become successful?
Yes, po. Or not necessarily successful, but when does it like become considered this group of people canceling someone else?
When does it become a valid movement?
Yes, po.
Right. The thing is with social media, there's no distinct metric or in cancel culture, there's no distinct particular measure where it leads to successful cancellation. And we also have to understand what successful cancellation means. As I've said earlier, we have now media platforms, right? In today's time, we have new professions like I'm a professional YouTuber. I'm a professional social media influencer. So, these individuals actually have their livelihood tied to their number of followers and number of engagements. So, it only becomes successful when their livelihood may necessarily become, affected by these movements. I guess that's where you draw the line. For example, if they get deplatformed, or if they get fired, or if they don't receive the same amount of attention, which leads to a decrease in their income. So that's where it becomes successful. And to answer the question more specifically, we don't necessarily have a metric to state that okay, this number of engagement would lead to cancellation. So we don't. I'm not so sure, or at least I'm not familiar with it at the moment. But what is I think clear with me is that um, if your livelihood is dependent on the attention economy, then more likely you are more susceptible to um, this social movement, or you're more susceptible to being cancelled. If you're a nobody, really, if you're a nobody and no one really knows you, I don't think you will be cancelled because it doesn't really have an effect on your livelihood, or on your life. Say for example, if you have 10 followers, right? You can I mean it won't necessarily have an effect on you. But for those, say for example, have millions of followers, they have a responsibility to towards their respective set of individuals that they influence. So there.
And, thank you. We have Jesus Roberto. You can unmute your microphone, please.
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes, po, loud and clear.
I am Jesus Roberto Boncodin, AB Communication student. I I don't have a question, but I have an insight. Um, from what I would notice and from the subjects that we have in media studies, mainly being public relations, I would say that some personalities or celebrities or just big people in general have one good thing by their side, and it's good and effective public relation. Um, to some degree, these people could not be canceled at some point because beforehand they already knew their facts, the allegations that's being thrown at them, and therefore they see it beforehand. And therefore, when it comes out to the public or it's arising, they knew it beforehand, and the decisions that they have made to respond or whatnot is already premeditated. And I guess that what leads to people actually being canceled is poor handling of their own public relation. I mean, sure, not everyone has their own agent to uh, rely on that or their own manager for their own image. It's just that um, it's should be a responsibility. I mean, I guess on my end, being a media practitioner, is to check who we are handling in terms of putting their image on a more positive manner or such to the public, because they are influential beings and therefore um, can bring some positive, some negative things around po. So ayun, that's my point. Public relations is important in the rise of cancel culture. Thank you.
Okay, to respond to that, Jesus, you know what? You're not wrong. Actually, you're very much on point there. An effective way to respond to a level of cancellation is to have a good PR team and to have a good PR response. Um, and I think the bigger issue there as well is that if you're a PR practitioner, if you work in media and communications, to what extent are you willing to um, allow to are you willing to help this individual who is actually hated for doing something that is terrible? Like in Filipino, um, gaano yung to what or sige, I'll phrase it in this way. To what extent can you handle, for example, a person who has, say, for example, committed this level of infraction? Will you support? Like, kaya ba ng konsensya mo yon as a person? I guess we also have to understand that we all have our moral compass, and we have to weigh the pros and cons of helping as a media practitioner. And I'm not a media practitioner, just to be clear, but it would really depend on to what extent are you willing to help another person rehabilitate themselves after committing a particular infraction. It may be, a very terrible infraction or just a minor one, but it would really depend on you. But you are correct that, one way to respond to it effectively is to ensure that you have a good PR team and you have a good PR response. Because some people, I've noticed they don't have a PR team, and what they do is they double down on the issue. So instead of helping them rehabilitate their own image, what they do is they dig a deeper hole, and which makes the public hate them more. So you're very on point there. Thank you.
Thank you to the person who gave the insight. For as much as we want to entertain all of your questions, Dalawa na lang po ang i-accept natin kasi wala na tayong time. So for the second to the last question po, if an influencer is being canceled online, should other influencers talk about it? I think it's making the issue bigger and getting more hype than it should be. Yun po, sir.
Okay, so if there's a person being canceled, should other influencers chip in or to increase the engagement on that particular matter?
Yes.
It really depends. If these individuals are friends, of course they wouldn't want to put their friend in a very terrible light. So um but then again, people with a big following do have a responsibility because they have a lot of people following a lot of people are following these individuals. They have the power. That's why they're called influencers, because they can influence public opinion. And they really have to have, but what is lacking is they don't have this standard, this ethical, I think, um this specific set of standards. I'm not so sure if they follow it. So that's one thing that is quite unclear at this point. So if they should talk about it, it really depends on them. If they want to amplify the engagement, then they may do so. But if it's their friend, then of course they do not want to pull other people down.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. So for the last question, we have question from John Albert Florendo. So he said po na, is there a relation between cancel culture and gender? Does men really have it worse than women? Since Cardi B once admitted that she drugged men and stole their money, but she's still producing music. And some people even supported her and told her that it's okay because she did it to survive even if stealing and drugging someone is a crime nonetheless. So yun po sir, kung meron daw pong relation between cancel culture and gender.
Okay, I'm not so sure if the connection is extremely clear, but I'll give a more recent example. I'm not so sure if people are familiar with Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle is a comedian, and he has this Netflix special, and was really hated for it by the transgender community because it is quote unquote it spews out transphobic ideas. So the question now is, why is gender an important factor in terms of cancellation? As I would like to go back to my previous point, that we have to understand the type of oppressions that people encountered. Okay, and that's why they are responding to it in a particular way. And in the case of bakit si Cardi B hindi naka-cancel? Tama ba? Did I understand it correctly? Okay, so yeah, he confirmed on the chat box. So the thing with that is that, yeah, it's a crime. He admitted that Cardi B she may have admitted that she drugged individuals or patrons to this particular establishment. But we have to understand her history as well, di ba? Um she is working in the entertainment industry, and I'm not so sure if she also worked in that adult type of industry. And we all know that CB things, happen there. I understand, yeah. She had that profession. So she we so the question is, why is she not being canceled? Well, first and foremost, there are also inequalities involved. First of all, what she did, if it was proven, is a crime. Number one, she wasn't, that situation was not litigated, so we could not necessarily confirm or it whether it is on record that she did that. Also, as individuals who are consuming media, we also have to be more circumspect with the things that we consider as facts. Okay. Some people exaggerate stories, although I'm not saying that she's exaggerating. Well, some people exaggerate stories to gain more attention and more tractions with their followers. But for this particular case, she's not canceled because number one, I guess the quote unquote thing that she did was not necessarily put on record or wasn't a crime. And of course, if you're working in that industry, you are aware of the hazards, and if you're also a patron of the industry, I mean, if you take part in those types of instances, you also have to be aware of the risks that you take. Okay, because I'm not so sure if it's a highly regulated industry, but then again, you have to put into perspective that um that situation is rough, but it was not necessarily legally recorded, or put into or it wasn't a case that was tried. On the other hand, I'll give you an example, right? Who is that singer who was recently um I forgot the name of the singer, but no, no, not that. For having sex with underage women. I just forgot the name. Exactly, I think R. Kelly. 'Di ba siya, also has been put into that difficult situation because what he did was put on public record and is being prosecuted. So I always believe that, I hope that our institutions are strong enough to respond to these types of complaints and behaviors so that we don't have to necessarily take matters into our own hand. And what I'm saying, let me be clear, I'm not saying that our institutions are strong enough to respond to these kinds. I'm saying that we hope that our institutions become stronger in the future, so that we don't have to take, you know, our these matters into our own hands. Okay.
And thank you so much, Sir Joseph, for answering all of the questions from our audience. So thank you again sa lahat din ng nag-participate. We have now come to the closing part of the program. Once again, thank you very much to everyone who participated in the open forum. I would also like to extend my deepest gratitude to Dr. Joseph Ching Velasco for sharing with us his knowledge and time for this ACP webinar. So everyone who is part of this event surely learned significant information and insights which we can continue reflecting on. So to show our gratitude to our resource speaker for accepting our invitation, we would like to present this certificate of appreciation. Let me read the citation. Affairs, Ateneo de Naga University presents this certificate of appreciation to Dr. Joseph Ching Velasco in grateful recognition of his expertise and service as resource speaker in the alternative class program #Cancelled, Understanding the Phenomenon of Cancel Culture, held on November 19, 2021. Given this 19th of November 2021 at the Ateneo de Naga University, City of Naga, Philippines. Signed by Mr. Rodolfo S.B. Vertus Jr., the Director of Student Affairs, Ms. Janet P. Badong Badilla, Executive Director for Mission and Identity, Dr. Alfredo C. Fabay, Vice President for Higher Education, and Father Roberto Ezequiel and Rivera of the Society of Jesus University President. Thank you so much again for this event, which would not be possible without you. Once again, sir, thank you very much, Dr. Joseph. Send tayo ng hearts para sa ating speakers for today.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the Ateneo for inviting me to this talk, and it's really a pleasure having this very interesting discussion with all of you.
And once again po, thank you so much, sir. So to the participants, please do not forget to fill out the evaluation form to receive your e-certificates. So we will be flashing the link here and the QR code.
Hello, everyone. So, good noon. I will be taking over since I think our host, Karla, is experiencing some technical difficulties and connection issues. So, again, thank you so much again for being part of this event. To all of our participants. So, we will be flashing the evaluation link and we will also be putting it in the Zoom chat. So please make sure that you provide the correct information as it is what will exactly reflect on your certificate. So we are very much grateful for your participation, and we hope to see you all in future ACP webinars and workshops. Once again, that was Karla, Faye, Abila, and I am Daniel Enfilio, and I am very much honored to have been part of this event. So this ends the Cancelled, Understanding the Phenomenon of Cancel Culture. Marahay na hapon sa Indogabos, and salamat, Pirmi and Mama. I apologies. This is part of the new normal. That was my classmate's brother.
I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Changes, changing on the daily. Watch me flip the pages, flipping all the pages of my story. Weightless, I've been feeling weightless, fresher than the daydream. Look at me, I'm changing right before me. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to. I change with the vibe when I walk in. I'm chasing all that I'm wanting. On fire cause I know how to spark it. I do what I want to. Stay up and I brighten the room up. I trust how I shine like true love. Best part of the night like what's up. I do what I want to. Changes, changing on the daily. Watch me flip the pages, flipping all the pages of my story. Weightless, I've been feeling weightless, fresher than the daydream. Look at me, I'm changing right before me. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to. 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 I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to.
I just gotta be honest. I don't like the way she dresses, or the way that she pronounces her S's. And I'm just saying what they're thinking, cause they don't know you, no, like I know you, no. I'm not trying to be pretentious, but we know what we had was the bestest. Now you're hiding behind white picket fences, and she knows she don't know you, no, like I know you, no. Not that I'm supposed to be nice and everything, on some feminism shit, yeah. Not that it's not with me, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's not. I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cruel, but the way she calls you happy before the altar alters you, and you know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you. Let's not get this confused. Look at her and look at you. She'll mess up your genetic pool, and I would never do that. I would just improve that. Not that I'm supposed to be nice and everything, on some feminism shit, yeah. Not that it's not with me, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's not. I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cruel, but the way she calls you happy before the altar alters you, and you know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you, for you.
I don't know if I'm like more concerned or confused. That's the thing.
It just doesn't make any sense. But why? Why would you do that though? Like, I just think she's kinda ugly. I'm not trying to be cool. Don't need to. But why? The way she calls you happy, it just seems unnecessary. Before the altar's new. I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad. And you know I'm not trying to waste your time, but I know if I had some, I would change your mind. I just think she's kinda ugly, and that she's not the one for you.
Why haven't they said anything yet? Why haven't I said anything yet?
Hold on. Alright. 2, hit.
You know I've been looking at you. I know you've been looking at me, looking at you. Looking at you, oh yeah. Craving you like all afternoon. Someday I'll be getting a taste. Kiss ya from your tummy to your nose to your waist. Like eating a cake, oh yeah. Oh, I can't wait. I'm gonna be the snack that smells back. I'm gonna be the kid to your cat. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the one you unwrap. Just take me out and break me in half. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. Big pop on the tip of my tongue. You belong there like the frosting on a cinnamon bun. A cinnamon bun, oh yeah. I'ma eat it till it's making me young, oh yeah. Split me like an Oreo and dip me in a cup of your joe. Cause neither one of us is gonna taste as good if we're on our own. Falling like a skittle, I'll be filling up the palm of your hand. I'll be skinny dipping, feeling dizzy from your butt at the can. I'm gonna be the snack that smells back. I'm gonna be the kid to your cat. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the one you unwrap. Just take me out and break me in half. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the snack that smells back. I'm gonna be the kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the one you unwrap. Just take me out and break me in half. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the snack that smells back. I'm gonna be the kid to your cat. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I'm gonna be the one you unwrap. Just take me out and break me in half. The snack that smells back. The kid to your cat. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Changes, changing on the daily. Watch me flip the pages, flipping all the pages of my story. Weightless, I've been feeling weightless, fresher than the daydream. Look at me, I'll change it right before me. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to. I change with the vibe when I walk in. I'm chasing all that I wanted. On fire cause I know how to spark it. I do what I want to. Stay up and I brighten the room up. I trust how I shine like true love. Best part of the night for me. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to. I do what I want to. I do what I want to. Do what I want to. Do what I want to. I dip when the mood don't feel right. I change like the colors of a sunrise. Not scared of the dark, I'm a highlight. I do what I want to. Stand tall cause I know what I've been through. Talk loud cause I know what I can do. Been down but I know how to get through. I do what I want to.
I just gotta be honest. I don't like the way she dresses or the way that she pronounces her S's. And I'm just saying what they're thinking, cause they don't know you, no, like I know you, no. I'm not trying to be pretentious, but we know what we had was the bestest. Now you're hiding behind white picket fences, and she knows she don't know you,